Hey, this is Buff Bagwell, and you're watching the Card Subject Change podcast. Check it out.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan, of course. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison the Tattoo. You can hear us live right now, loud, and of course on replay on the For Frequency's Sake network. Thank you so much for joining us. Episode 222, plenty to get to tonight, but I'd be remiss if I did not introduce myself. I am Never Wrong Nick Bull. I am joined by my tag team partner. We are the co-champs of the For Frequency Network. He's also a wizard, folks. He is the one, he is the only, he is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing, bud?
Can we shorten that? Can we do a different intro and do where you say Wiz CZ and do the Rob Van Dam thing?
Okay, we can do it again. And then I'd be remiss if I did not introduce to you my tag team partner. He is the one half of the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions. He is the Wizard CZ. Okay, you're welcome.
I love it. I'm sorry. I was chatting with Stryker over Rob Van Dam, and
I love your Halloween costume, by the way. You're an effing mark.
Yeah. We're already off the rails, and we are,
folks. We are, but it is the season, right? I mean, why not? So, no, we're having fun here. This is Card Subject to Change. I am Never Wrong Nick Bull. He is Wizard CZ. And this is episode 222. Wiz, what do we have going on? What's going on right now? And what do we have going on in time of the show?
Man, I'm excited. We had this gentleman on briefly during the summer at our Podcasts Collide event, and now we get to pick his brain for a full episode, learn about his wrestling journey. I'm going to bring him on in. Let's welcome to the studio, Mr. Leo Santel. Leo, how you doing today, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm very excited to be a part of this.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you on. I'm glad you're able to make it.
Yeah.
Leo, we're glad to have you here. We've talked to you, like we said briefly before. This is a much more relaxed environment. You're not getting tugged a million ways tonight. So just sit back and relax and start. We got the hard-hitting questions here for you. And I always ask our first-time in studio members or whoever comes onto this show, why pro wrestling? What was it for you that got you that, you know, what is it? Why pro wrestling?
Man. Okay. So I want to say 8 years old when I was first exposed to professional wrestling. So one of my next door neighbors was babysitting myself and my brothers, and her husband would always put on WCW, would tape Nitro, would tape Thunder, would tape pay-per-views even. And so that would be all he watched. And so I was kind of exposed to that. I remember seeing Hogan. He was a household name, and really whenever you went out in public, you couldn't go down the street without seeing an Austin 316 shirt, an NWO shirt. It was like that worldwide at the time. It was that white hot. And so that was my first exposure. I didn't get into wrestling up until about 2003. It all started with, a video game that I got for Christmas randomly. WWF Just Bring It. We had previous video games before, and so we knew some of the names like Hogan and Sting and Goldberg and everybody else, but we didn't exactly know like how to watch it. It's kind of past our curfew, our bedtime and whatnot. So, but I remember flipping channels and watching Raw for the first time. And I remember being hooked instantly. The wrestling, the stories, everything involved with it. You didn't want to miss anything else and you didn't want it to end. So that was kind of what hooked me in. And so,
Does something stick out from that first Raw that you saw?
yeah,
You
yeah.
What was it?
Steve Austin. I was like, I haven't seen Steve Austin on TV before. So
Oh,
I've
yeah,
always seen him in pictures and video games.
right.
I'm like, okay. I was like, well, I can't miss a single episode now. I see him in person and he's such a badass. So I'm like watching this. And I think this was just before like WrestleMania 19 in
Okay.
2003. So to give you guys like a timeline
Okay.
of where
Yeah,
that is.
no, but that's cool. That's cool. I just didn't know if you remembered something from that particular episode. I mean, there's so
Yeah, so it was just I don't know, Steve Austin being a badass, and I think he was locked out of the building and somehow got his way back in, and it was just chaos, and so that's what stood out to me, just the entire like uh theatrics and pageantry of it, and the story behind it. I was like, it's a everlasting story throughout the entire episode, and it was just super cool, and so that hooked me in, and it just snowballed from there. I got into different kinds of wrestling and everything else. But yeah, all it took was a Raw episode.
So, of course, the follow up to that is what was that moment? What was that crystallizing period that said, I've got to do this?
Oh, okay. So my younger brother, Brett Hadley, he actually got a head start before I got trained. And so he got started in 2014 and I was supposed to join him. I was going through some personal stuff at the time, so it kind of got put on hold for a while. And then I moved out of state and then kind of came back to it. But um, I've always wanted to be a professional wrestler. We've always done like, every kid does backyard wrestling, you know. It's something that every kid always does, either if it's on a trampoline or in their backyard or whatever, they're exposed to it. They want to emulate the moves on TV. So, I don't know. I always had that dream of being involved with wrestling somehow. I didn't know I was going to be a wrestler. I had ambitions of being commentator, ring announcer, whatever. Very big into, radio and stuff. So that was always something I really wanted to do. But I also had the love for like, I want to be in that ring competing. So, about, 2021, my friend TJ Wilt, he hit me up and he asked me if there was any wrestling schools around Iowa. I wasn't trained yet. So I was like, I'm just telling you what's out there right now. And he eventually got trained at Impact Pro Wrestling. And I was like, I'm kicking myself in the ass saying, if he's doing well, I got to join him.
right,
That's super
right.
cool. So eventually I went to the IPW school in Collins, Iowa and got trained.
What was that? What was that like? Your first day of training, walking in the building, knowing you're getting ready to start an adventure. What was that like for you?
It was I felt that rush because like I took a tour of the training facility uh, about a week or two prior, and I was just like, wow, like this is cool. We have something here in our state that, we can go to and hone our craft. And I just love the environment. It's not perfect, but it's a place to get, learn your stuff. So it was just a rush, getting to meet the, fellow trainees and James Jeffries and TS Aggressor and Justin Decent later on. And they all helped me along the way. It was just super cool. Yeah, the first day was really a rush. Just I wanted to get involved any way possible and soak up as much as I could as far as knowledge and learning everything. So yeah, it big deal.
And I love, we've talked to several people who have been through the Impact training. We've got Black and Brave right in our backyard. I love that there's more options here in Iowa and in the Midwest than that. And it's something that before I started the podcast, I wouldn't have had any clue about. And I've loved meeting everybody who's come through that system because they've all been fantastic. I love watching you guys, and knowing you from Absolute Pro, they're my go-to right now, as far as where I like to go watch wrestling. If I'm gonna pick a place that's close and they have a show, I'm gonna be in Waterloo.
Yeah, I think it's just a really good quality wrestling here in town, at least in this state. And there's many that you could choose from. I mean, there's Central Empire Wrestling, there's Madhouse. But I mean, as far as Absolute Pro Wrestling goes, I think they have a quality product. And I'm not being biased just because I'm more prominent there. I'm saying like the production keeps growing, the matches keep everybody involved. I just think it's a good atmosphere for a wrestling fan to at least give it a shot. And so I've brought friends out there, and then whenever they travel, especially to the Des Moines area, it's always good to have them go off and cheer and boo whoever they want. And I don't know. I just always thought that was a fun atmosphere. I haven't heard a complaint about it.
And you mentioned other promotions like Central Empire, Madhouse. This is such a hotbed for wrestling, whether you're in the Iowa area or like Nick and I right on the Illinois, Nick being in Illinois, both of us on the border. Between Iowa and Illinois, there are so many great promotions with so much great talent. I love that we're exposed to that and meeting people who come out of that system. It's a lot of fun, and there's so much to choose from. It's some weekends it's hard, some weekends there are 3-4 shows going on within an hour or two of us. And I'm like, well, I really want to go to a show, but which one do I go to?
Right. And I think that's a really good thing to have, honestly, is that choice.
Problem to have, right?
Yeah, that's a very good problem to have, just to have that choice of like you can go anywhere you want, and to give different promotions a shot, see which one sticks out to you.
We are speaking here with Leo Santel. This is the Card Subject to Change podcast by the fan, for the fan. Of course, we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham and Modeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. Leo, I want to get back to your wrestling upbringing and, fandom of sorts. Those wrestlers that you were emulating in the backyard on the trampoline, those wrestlers that you liked or emulated growing up, did those transfer into what you would become as a wrestler?
Yes, it did. So eventually, over my time being a wrestling fan and kind of maturing a bit and paying attention more into the in-ring aspect, I grew more of a fan of like technical wrestling and catch as catch can, and just watching anything like that. So I very much loved Kurt Angle. He was one of my first favorite wrestlers of all time. I still consider him one of the greats. And then like as I was getting more introduced into independent wrestling around the United States and even across the world, Zack Sabre Jr., incredible.
Fantastic.
I've never seen anybody as technically sound as he is. He reminded me of just, a very scrawny Bryan Danielson, and I loved it. So, so like I was very much in the Ring of Honor. I got all the tapes and watched them nonstop. So I was very much into that sport-like style, technical, and just like straight down the business, kicking ass. So I always loved stuff like that. So like Angle, Benoit, Danielson, stuff like that. But yeah, that definitely came forth after I was, done backyard wrestling, wanted to take it more serious. It definitely helped build my arsenal of moves for my pro wrestling career.
Let me just ask, what era of Ring of Honor did you start off in? Who were the major players?
Okay, so when I was first introduced to it, it was around 2005.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So yeah, so I was paying attention and I was reading, dirt sheets, whatever I could to get the results because I didn't have access to purchase the tapes at the time. So I was always trying to look on YouTube wherever I could. One of the first matches I remember seeing was Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi.
Before you go further, I'm going to use this opportunity to give a cheap plug. When we have our Wrestlebacks at the beginning of November, that is the match that we are reviewing.
That is so cool. Yeah, absolutely fell in love with that match. And to think like you don't need any commentary behind it. You just had the fans speak for itself. And it just like the atmosphere in that room cheering on Kenta Kobashi, who when I read up on it, he wasn't expecting that kind of reaction from Japan, which is a huge deal. And he was like, nobody's going to know me. And Samoa Joe's like, no, everybody's going to know who you are when you walk through that curtain. So I remember watching that and falling in love with it. So I dove deep into that. So it was like Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Punk. I had to kind of work my way backwards too to kind of catch up on the last few years, but it was always a quality product for being an independent promotion just out of Philadelphia. But yeah, so I have like a ton of tapes from like 2002 through 2010. That was my era right there.
Guilty. Got a box full of them, dude. Me too. You're right in my wheelhouse.
I hate to admit this. I had a box full of ROH DVDs and it got lost somewhere in a move.
Oh no.
So one of my favorite matches from when I started in ROH was the Briscoes versus Steen and Generico, the Ladder War. And
my goodness.
I got a month of Honor Club. That match is not on there.
Yeah, I couldn't find it either.
It's on YouTube. So yeah. But I was so upset that match wasn't on there because that was one of the main reasons.
I've got it in a box 10 feet behind me on DVD.
And the aftermath, that what they call the blood edit, Jimmy Jacobs in the start of Age of the Fall, that is one of my all-time favorite moments in professional wrestling. And poor Jay Briscoe hanging upside down with his blood dripping on Jimmy. Oh man, that is a visual that I am never going to forget.
Yeah, goosebumps for sure.
What was your reaction after watching Joe and Kobayashi for the first time?
Ooh, it kind of like lit a fire. Like I always wanted to emulate that match. I loved the hard striking and just like the stiff, and also it also introduced me to more Japanese wrestling, which I fell in love with as well. So diving deep into like All Japan, New Japan, and Pro Wrestling Noah, that catapulted a like obsession with like just like finding more stuff than just like stuff that's here in the United States, like WWE and TNA. That was really the only accessible things that we had at that time. So finding more stuff like that, and then Ring of Honor, introducing fans to, overseas product, which is really cool. But yeah, like that was just like one of those moments like where you fall in love with that stuff. Like you want to be involved with that. You want to hear that reaction.
And it's just such a different environment from here. Some of the things you see here in the States, especially if you're watching the bigger promotions, what WCW, WWEF at the time, whatever, or AEW, and AEW kind of brings some of that stuff nowadays. But back then, it's such a different atmosphere, different style of wrestling. And it's something that I just love to soak in when I can. I don't watch as much as I'd like to, but definitely good to soak in for sure.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Getting back to a couple things you said, we're talking here with Leo Santel, Card Subject to Change podcast. I'm guessing you love the Danielson Zack Sabre Jr. match from Forbidden Door. Was it a Forbidden Door?
Yeah,
That
and
match was amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Probably one of my favorite matches of all time watching live. I always try to go back to it, and it's just like incredible. That was always a dream matchup that you wanted to see. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing it on pay-per-view, and I still regard it as one of my favorite matches of all time.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, gentlemen, we're going to take a quick time out. We've got to pay dues to our friends over on the For Fantasy Sake podcast. They've got their 100th episode coming up, so we'll come back in just a minute after we hear a little news about For Fantasy Sake.
Big news, fantasy fans. We are hitting a huge milestone, the 100th episode of For Fantasy Sake, and we're going back to where it all began, Kavanaugh's Hilltop Bar and Grill in Rock Island. Mark your calendars, Sunday, November 16th, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Join the crew for football talk, fantasy insights, laughs, and a little friendly banter as we celebrate 100 episodes and dive into the rest of the fantasy season. Expect giveaways, league chatter, and maybe even a few surprise guests. Grab a drink, hang out, and be a part of the live recording at the bar that's been our home from the very start. Whether you've been with us since episode 1 or just joined this season, this is one party you won't want to miss. See you at Kavanaugh's.
Hello, this is Mick Foley, and you are listening to the Card Subject to Change podcast.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. This is the Card Subject to Change podcast, episode 222. Of course, we're joined in studio tonight by Leo Santel. More with him in a bit. We are, of course, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. I am never wrong, Nick Bull. He is the wizard. CZ. Come on. If you want to do this gimmick thing, you got to be the one doing it, not me.
That's fair. That's fair.
It does not say Wizard CZ's hype man on my chroma key.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay, well, that's fair. And of course, we are part of the For Frequency Sake podcast network. So thanks to For Frequency Sake for hosting us these last 3 years. Love being a part of their network. Let's jump back in with Mr. Leo Santel. Leo, I've got to ask you. You have such a great moniker, the Untamed Lion, and I got to know the story how this came about.
I had the toughest time coming up with something like that. One of my favorite animals is a lion. I love the lion. I was told as a little kid I had like the kind of lion mane hair, very like lion-like. So I always kind of like carried that along with me throughout my childhood and stuff. But I wanted to be something of a lion with Leo Santel. Leo being my, also my astrology sign is a Leo. So I was like, I wanted to carry that along, and I said, I want something with a lion in my nickname, because I know one of the ring announcers was telling me, hey, you have a nickname? And I'm like, I'm still working on it. Give me about 2 weeks, and Waterloo, I'll let you know. And so we just kept on coming up with something, and something stood out to me. I'm like, I wanted like something like unhinged, something like untamed. Like I can't be tamed as a lion. And so that's how I wanted to feel in the ring, and I wanted to carry that to the ring. So eventually the Untamed Lion came about, just like that. One show, I was like, Untamed Lion. And he's like, that's badass. Let's do that. So I carried that along. So I kept it with me.
And as a former ring announcer, I just love the way that sounds. I can picture myself introducing you, though I'm out of the game and probably couldn't intro anybody as well as I used to. But hearing it at the venues, it's fitting and it's perfect. I love every time you come out.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I just, I've always carried that along, and a lot of people like it. So I was like, okay. I mean, we did something right there.
Oh, without a doubt. What I know we talked a little bit about your influences. What are you watching now? What kind of grabs your attention in today's world? Are you going back and watching older stuff? Are you watching current product? Where do you gravitate towards?
So I always go back and watch older stuff. There's nothing like wrong with the current product in my eyes, but I always gravitate towards the older product. I've always been the one, especially when I was first starting out, I wanted to bring like an old school style to my repertoire and bring it to the ring. That way, you know, it's not like over the top and you're not doing complicated stuff to the point where you might hurt yourself. I wanted to be ground and pound, old school wrestling, rugged, and you know, untamed. So that's why I wanted to do. And so I'm always going back and watching older stuff rather than new stuff right now. I just got a huge tape collection that I just go back and watch every chance that I get. And so that's mainly what I watch.
All right, you're in my wheelhouse. What are you watching? What are you really like the old stuff you watch? Because I have about like 5 or 6 things I currently like watch at a time, and like most of it's older stuff, but I like the newer stuff too. What's the stuff that you like? What do you go back to?
So as far as like I brought up Ring of Honor, so I'll watch that.
Sure.
I've been also getting tapes of like early All Japan pro wrestling from the early 90s. So like Mitsuhara Misawa, like the Four Pillars of Heaven. Those matches are incredible. You can never go wrong with any of those matches. I mean, 5 stars, not even by Meltzer standards, but like 5 stars, like
It's brutality in wrestling. It's amazing.
yeah, it's always amazing. So you can't go wrong with those. I don't know. I'll watch everything. So I'll even watch like Lucha Libre, even though I can't do half the stuff that they do. But yeah, so I'll watch like even like World of Sport from the UK from like the 80s, and some of those things are incredible. Like it's like I gotta steal some of that stuff. Technically, that's some of the best wrestling you could watch if you're into that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll watch a bit of everything, but it's a lot of older stuff, like 15, 20, even like 40 years old. So it,
Okay.
it's a lot of that.
So you can't say Joe and Kabashi. That's too easy.
Okay.
Is there a particular match or a particular event that you can just watch on end?
Yeah. So I found myself knowing every single part of WrestleMania 19. I've watched that DVD nonstop. It's one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. I'm a big promo guy, so the Rock's promo I know word for word when he's being interviewed by Coach. So I know that one. And then also Pro Wrestling Noah's Destiny 2005 from the Tokyo Dome. It's an incredible pay-per-view. You see some of like the biggest stars in wrestling over there, as far as Japanese wrestling. I think it was God, what was it? Toshiaki Kawada versus Mitsuhara Misawa, one of the best matches. I don't know. Top to bottom, it's a really, really awesome card. So I highly recommend watching that if you're into that stuff. But yeah, WrestleMania 19 sticks out as probably the most prominent one where I know move for move, word for word, whatever they're doing. It's something I wore out the DVD.
I recently went back and reviewed one of my everybody who watches the show knows I'm the Shawn Michaels guy. Nick's the Bret Hart guy.
I like them both. I like them
Well,
both.
I like them both too, but at the end of the day, Nick, let's face facts. You're a Bret guy more than a Shawn guy.
Right. I am.
I'm also a big Jerichoholic. I not so much his most recent work. The Learning Tree stuff could die in a fire. Didn't say that out loud, but
Easy.
HBK versus Chris Jericho, WrestleMania 19, such an outstanding match.
And what a build! What a build to that match too.
Yes,
I loved it. It's like Jericho trying to emulate Shawn Michaels when he was younger, but he was like, "No, I was trying to be the first Shawn or the next Shawn Michaels. I'm focused on being the first Chris Jericho. And it's just like that build was incredible. I loved it. I loved that match. I loved the build to that match. I watched Raw like religiously, and that was one of the things I was looking forward to throughout that era.
Such a great experience.
Well,
Like I said, I
Shawn
really
Michaels matches were can't miss at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Yes.
And adding Jericho to it was so much better. I know which I CZ and I got a buddy, Don. He loves WrestleMania 19. He only likes WrestleMania 3 is his favorite and 19. And I love 19. And I'm not going to rip on 19, but there's one thing in 19 that just infuriates me. And that's the night Booker T should have beat Triple H and become the champion.
By
that
far.
was the night. That was the time. That would have been the time to do it. Wouldn't have hurt Triple H at all. It would have been the time. Otherwise, I think it's a perfect show. I love it.
Yeah, exactly how I feel about that too. Booker T should have won the World Heavyweight Championship. I didn't get to watch it live, but I got the DVD as soon as it came out. But I remember watching the next night on Raw, confused. I was like, 10 years old. I was like, Booker T should have the belt right now.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
I
It was
know.
building to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, Triple H won. So I don't know. I was upset. And even as I matured as a wrestling fan, it's just like it infuriates me as much as I was a kid.
And that was part of the quote unquote reign of terror of Triple H at the time, which lives in infamy. I mean, I will give Triple H his flowers all day up and down. He's a great wrestler. He's done a lot for the business recently, but yeah, he would have done wonders putting Booker T over at that WrestleMania.
100%. And like the 20-minute promos to start Raw every week.
That's how some of our episodes are. Nick cutting a 20-minute promo.
Easy.
No, it's never lasted 20 minutes. I kid. Okay, so we being card subject to change, we like playing some fantasy booking. So let's put on our fantasy booking caps. We'll start here. Dream opponent.
Living or dead?
Either or both.
Both.
Oh my gosh.
Both. Yeah, both.
Okay, currently living. I would love to work Jonathan Gresham. I think he has a smart mind as far as like technical ability. I have always loved his work. He was always somebody that I kind of like thought of as a dream opponent down the line. Almost made the trip to Atlanta to do one of his seminars. But it didn't end up working out. But I was like, that was always somebody that I would like to pick his brain and eventually face in a matchup. Somebody who's not with us anymore would probably be Mitsuharu Misawa. What a legend. He's like, every time I watch one of his matches, he's just, incredible. But there's so many that I could choose from, but like that would be one off the top of my head.
Right. No, those would be great.
Do you know how I learned about Mitsuharu Misawa? Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Like that's Ring of Honor, like when we were talking about that earlier, that was my gateway to independence. That was my gateway also to Japan.
Yeah.
I knew Japan existed, but I didn't know the different, companies and whatnot. But yeah, I feel very, very strongly about like my introduction to not only just, American independent wrestling, but it was my introduction to, Japanese wrestling.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I loved Ring of Honor is because it introduced me to so much like Dragon Gate Pro Wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That stuff is insane. They're so quick. And it was just, I know they did like a Dragon Gate USA here, especially around the Midwest, like Chicago.
I went to one of their shows.
Area. Did you?
I did.
Oh my gosh. That'd be incredible. But yeah, so like, such a good introduction to like getting people introduced to like different kinds of product from all over the world. And Ring of Honor did really good with that.
And that's the thing with wrestling is not only things like ROH being a gateway to other wrestling. It's such a buffet of different things. There's something there for everybody. I know we've said that multiple times on the show, but there really is something out there for everyone's taste.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's comedy, whether it's hard hitting, whether it's high flying stuff, you can't go wrong.
That's true. That's true. There is something for everybody. It's always a stacked card.
Is there a match that you would pull up to show someone who has never seen pro wrestling to get them to say, "Oh, I got to watch this, more of this"?
I think one that sticks out in my head would be any of the Rock versus Austin matches. I think
Okay.
those are, you have two of the biggest icons in professional wrestling, and the biggest rivalry in the world, two household names and two people that, hated each other for the longest time. And they had, three amazing matchups at three different WrestleManias. If I had to pick one personally, it'd probably be their final one at WrestleMania 19. I just absolutely love that one.
Mine would be 17.
Yeah.
But they're all fantastic. Two stalwarts and stars of the business at the time. Yeah, that's a great answer. I love it.
The only reason why I won't pick 17 is because of the Austin heel turn.
That's fair. I can push that aside and just focus on the match, but that's fair. That's a good point. The heel turn that probably never should have happened.
Right. But really, all in all, like any of their matches from any of the WrestleManias that they've faced in any of the three, must watches, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
And thinking about Stone Cold and Rock, I mean, those guys were two of the guys that you could say, houses were sold because of their name coming into town.
That's true.
Everybody went to see what Stone Cold was doing. Everybody went to see what The Rock was doing. And if they didn't go to it, they tuned in for it. Like, you had to know what those two guys were doing each week.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Those guys did so much for the business, and their matches are excellent as well.
Yes. Yeah, they had a lasting effect on my fandom as well. So, and what I carried on as far as even my, when I cut a promo in the ring, I'm trying to emulate ECW Steve Austin. Like, I can't get enough of watching his stuff. It was just so creative, and he was so frustrated at the time. But they've always had incredible mic work too. You can't forget about that.
Without a doubt. Speaking of mic work and kind of going into the story side of things, we're doing some fantasy booking. Is there a story that you could see yourself being a part of in history that you think you could improve on?
Oh gosh.
Or just one that you'd want to be a part of to be there for the magic of it?
Man, that's so tough. There's so many. To be involved as a talent or as a fan, or
both?
Both. Gosh, I mean, the Rock versus Austin stuff is really cool. I think I'd pick that just to be in that arena as as everything's going down would be mind-boggling. I always go back and watch like these old WWF pay-per-views, and it's just like, man, to be a part of that crowd with like so many signs and like seeing like magic happen, like history happen with all these like names that are going to be legendary. But yeah, I mean, that would be one incredible story to be there in person.
Like, hey, you could go back and be the ref.
I could, yeah. We could be the ref. My gosh,
Imagine that.
Being a fly on the wall for that.
Imagine that. Just being in there. All you're in there for is to count to three and don't get caught staring at the show, because those guys were amazing. Yeah, that would have been that'd be cool.
I don't know if I would want to be a part of the Montreal screw job.
No. Absolutely not. No.
Too much pressure.
I think it only popularized Earl Hebner more, but regardless.
Honestly, yeah, he got an action figure out of that.
You know, and every time you see him on the indies, that's his thing. He's there to screw somebody over.
That's that's right. And he doesn't have a problem talking about it either.
No.
So,
Not at all.
We've talked plenty with Santel here about his fandom. Let's talk about him as a wrestler a little bit. Of
Yes.
course, we talked about you starting out wrestling, but
mhm.
what was it? What was it? You got in the door, you got training. What made you stick with it? What made you become, the person, the in-ring character that you are? Some influences and maybe some stories from along the way.
Yeah, so I always wanted to stick out as far as like my character. I always wanted to be like this serious, bringing old school wrestling back to the modern era is what I wanted to do.
Sure.
Emulate some of the greats from like the 70s, 80s, like Nick Bockwinkel. Somebody told me like, I was promoting a match that I had. He was like, "Oh my gosh, that reminded me of a Nick Bockwinkel promo from AWA." I'm like, "Whoa, that actually means a lot to me," because I went back and watched a lot of his matches from AWA from the 80s, and it was just like that was a big deal. But yeah, sticking with it was a big thing. I think it was just a lot of discipline. Something I wanted to do because it was a now or never situation. If I didn't do it now, it was never going to happen in my eyes. So I stuck with it, and I really just wanted to be the best that I could, and still progressing and doing the best that I can, and doing a lot for different companies that I work for.
And that I want to transition from that a little bit. I want to hear more about your wrestling, but over the summer, Convergence Heroes for Hudson, an event for your family. Don't want to focus on the tragedy that happened there. Everybody who's heard knows. What I want to know, now that we're a couple months out of it, I asked you the same thing at the show, but now that we're past it and a couple months out, what did that mean for the brotherhood of Iowa wrestling to come together for you and your family?
That's it gets me emotional thinking about it, because like you had so many different, there's a lot of egos in professional wrestling. I think everybody put their egos aside to come together, and like that's such a big deal. They didn't have to be a part of this. They chose to be a part of this, and they did that out of the kindness of their heart to benefit my family. And to do that, I am eternally grateful to this community, because they've done so much for us, um, that I can't repay them in any capacity. I'm just eternally grateful. It just means so much to me, and it literally comes up at least once every day, in conversation, or a thought, or something like that. But that was such a huge deal, and I don't I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. That was such an incredible night. That was beautiful. Just super emotional, but everybody coming together, and just the atmosphere was beautiful. Couldn't ask for a better night.
And the main reason I bring that up, you talk about working for all these other promotions. Wrestling really is a family. That's the main reason I wanted to ask you about that. Now that we're a couple months past, because you talk about all the different places you work. We could go into each individual company that you're working for, but it's really just the family atmosphere wherever you go. And I found that to be very prominent in most places that I've been.
I agree. Every locker room that I've stepped foot in, there's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, and it's everybody takes care of one another, um, to the best of their capacity. Whether it's just a simple "Hey, how you doing? How's life?" And then just working together, keeping each other safe, and still kicking ass.
Yes.
And it's just good to hype each other up, and making sure we're putting on the best matches for the fans. And I don't know, it's just I always love coming together and going to a show, and even if I'm not booked, it's a family reunion for real. It's just so many good people that I've met over the years.
Speaking of kicking ass, where do you see yourself kicking ass in the next few years?
I don't know. I slowed down quite a bit this year just because of everything that happened. I hope to pick it back up, and I always wanted to travel further outside of Iowa as well. Kind of pick up back where I left off about a year ago. I've traveled. I got to travel to around the Midwest. I got to go to North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and I was like, I've never imagined that I would wrestle that north of Iowa. So, and then just wrestling for more companies here, showing up to shows and being a part of something. Um, Always willing to travel. But yeah, I mean, this year I may have slowed down just because of everything, but next year, big year, we can make it happen.
And I know this time of year is slow for pretty much everybody. We get into the winter months here in the Midwest. The promotions tend to slow down a little bit, which is understandable because it's cold. Sometimes it's snowy. Nobody wants to drive in the snow. I get it, but I can't wait to see what the next couple of years bring for you. I'm excited.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm just going to keep working as hard as I can, keep getting in better shape and keep working on my craft. Hopefully get some really good matches over the next couple years and just work my ass off.
Hell yeah. Leo, I know we're getting close to that time where we start wrapping things up. Always got to give opportunities for our guests to share where they can find you on socials and where they can find you when you do get back in the ring, when you're ready to kick more ass.
Yeah. So I can be found on Facebook. Just search up Leo Santel. I'm also on Instagram at the Leo Santel. I also have a YouTube channel, Leo Santel, and you can find all my previous matches from the last couple of years on there. Still trying to upload some more as they get, filmed. But yeah, so I'm pretty much on those platforms prominently and trying to post as often as I can.
For sure. And I know I don't think I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel yet. Just not out of any reason other than laziness, but
I'm kidding.
I've seen your matches in person, and I definitely am looking forward to seeing some more of your archive. Which fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Kind of to wrap things up, if you were to give advice to your younger self, knowing what you know now, what's the best piece of advice you would tell yourself?
Take opportunities when you can. I had a chance to become a professional wrestler 10 years before I got started, and I didn't do it. And I still kick myself in the ass. I'm glad it got done, and I'm doing it now. But I always got to, listen to your gut, not your head, and take opportunities when you can. That's really it. That's what I would tell them personally, because I know that love for wrestling was always there, and I can't let the personal stuff take over and keep me from doing what I want to do and live out my dream. So I would definitely tell them just, trust your gut.
Absolutely. Nick, do you have anything final to add before we start plugging our stuff?
No, I just know that I follow him on Instagram, and I know that when stuff's going to pick up in the future, to keep the eyes on the social media. It's such a wonderful thing in current days. I couldn't imagine being like a wrestling fan in like the 70s, where everything was through word of mouth or a show poster or a newspaper ad. Like there was it wasn't instantaneous at your fingertips. It's like we got this gift, and I mean wrestlers do a good job of using it. So, and that's how I keep in touch with most of the wrestlers I follow. So looking forward to the dates ahead when we'll be seeing you back.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for coming on. Before we wrap things up completely, we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up. I'm going to since we mentioned it earlier, we're going to start, Nick. This was your choice of matches. I'm super excited. I've watched this a couple times, and I'm going to watch it a couple more because it's such a great match. But when WrestleBacks returns next Tuesday, a week from this Tuesday, we're reviewing Joe versus Kobashi. Such a fantastic match. Go out of your way on YouTube to watch it before we review it with our good friend Joe Winkle, Nick.
Yes, this one's going to be a lot of fun. I'm interested to see definitely Joe's take on it, who had never seen the match before, had heard about it. So looking forward to his take. Of course, sitting here talking with Leo Santel about it, it's a match that transcends just generations. I mean, I think it's one that's going to stand the test of time. So I tune into the show and I'll tell you why it's one of the greatest matches of all time, and it's going to transcend time. But that'll be coming up on WrestleBacks. And you said that's next Tuesday, CZ?
Yeah, we're a little over a week away from it. Hard to believe, isn't it?
We just did the last one, man.
I know. It's like time just goes too fast. Coming up before that, though, this Wednesday, Zach and I are back with Wrestling with Fitness. Zach's friend Vinny Cataldo is going to join us. That's Wednesday at 7. Looking forward to catching up with Zach. He had last month off due to a prior engagement. So that'll be fun getting Zach back in the studio and just checking in with our wrestling or our fitness journey with a little wrestling sprinkled in. And next Sunday, we go from a lion to a god. I don't know if that transition is good or not, but I'm excited to talk to the golden god himself. Oh my, Mr. Bryce Jordan. My brain froze for a second there because,
You okay?
No, but I will be.
Okay.
Bryce Jordan, another prominent figure here in the Midwest. Looking forward to talking with him. He's on recovery from an injury, so we'll hear about that as well. But unless you have any final thoughts, Nick, I think that puts a bow on this episode.
Nope. Had a great time tonight chatting with Leo. Of course, I love, talking anything wrestling, but most importantly, I like getting guys and gals in here and seeing what they like to watch and stuff. So selfishly, I can go watch some of that stuff now. So it's kind of evergreen for me. But no, had a good time tonight, and it was great to get you in here. After we talked to you briefly before, good to get you sat down and just get in a room and talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a really good time.
Definitely. And look forward to sometime down the future. Maybe we get you back in the studio.
Absolutely. I'll be down to do it anytime.
Awesome. Well, that is going to put a bow on this episode of Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo on the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. For my tag team partner, one half of the For Frequency's Sake tag team champions of the world, Mr. Never Wrong Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ, and we'll be back here next week with another edition of Card Subject to Change.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.